to make first a simple pattern and then a more complicated pattern. I have my instructions right next to me, so you can just follow along the video or read yourself in the instructions. So we're going to start off by making a very simple and basic pattern. You start off by making a 1-inch square. So we go over to our rectangle tool. I just opened a letter size document on Illustrator. If you haven't opened your document yet, you go to File and then New, and just open a letter size document. So we are going to make a 1-inch square. So you click once on the screen, put in 1 inch times 1 inch, and then OK. So for this assignment, we're not going to use a fill or a stroke on the square in the background, but just for the sake now, we can make it make sure that it has a stroke. So we're going to place a star in the middle of the square. So we go to the selection tool, deselect, find our star tool, which is underneath the rectangle tool. We click once on the screen, make sure that it has 5 sides, and then click OK. The star can have any fill and any stroke you want. I'm just going to fill it with pink and then take away my stroke because I just wanted to have a fill. Choose my selection tool, place it in the middle of the square. So you can see that the star is a little too big for the square we created. So we're going to grab one of the corners of the selection of where the star is, hold down our shift, and then make it a little smaller. Now make sure that it's in the middle of the little square. We select both the square and the star, and then we click on horizontal align center and then horizontal align vertical. There we go, and it popped down somewhere in the middle of the page as well. And there we go. Now we have the star in the middle of the square. So we can't make the pattern until we take away the stroke of the box. So we click once on the stroke and then click once over here and then click on none. So now the box doesn't have no fill and no stroke. We got to make sure that the square is in the back of the star, and we can do that by going to Object, Arrange, and Send Back, just to make sure that it's in the back, because otherwise it will mess up everything. We are going to select both the star and the square by dragging over it with the selection tool. You can see that both the square is selected by having the blue line here, and then the star has a blue outline around it over there. Go over to our swatches panel, which if you don't have it up already, you'll find under Window and then Swatches. With these all selected, we're going to click once and drag it over to the swatch panel and then release. And then our little pink star pattern popped up right there. So right now we're done with this one, so we can just use the selection tool and just drag it over there and just make sure there's nothing on the screen or on the artboard right now. So we're going to use this pattern and we're going to create a little rectangle. So we hold on our star tool and then we go up to rectangle. Create a big rectangle with no fill and no stroke. We're going to fill it with our little stars over here. So we just go over to our swatches. We have this one selected, the rectangle selected. We click on the pink star that we just created. So right now it popped up in the stroke, and to switch the stroke and the fill, we just click on these little 2 arrows. And there we go. We deselect, and then we have our little pattern inside our rectangle. Created pattern, we're going to use a star and the square as we did in the first one. So we're going to select our square and select our star, copy the square, and then copy the star. You can have a stroke on the square just to see what we're doing so we don't lose it. I'm going to select both of these and move it a little further down on the screen so we have that one. No other than anything else. We're going to change the size of the star. We're going to change it to 0.5 by 0.5. So we do that by using the selection tool, clicking once on the star, going up to our little transform panel up here. We're going to enter 0.5 width and 0.5 in height. Click enter, and there you go. We're going to center this one to the center. And then now we are going to make sure we have our smart guides on. Go to view and make sure that the smart guides has a little check mark right next to it. We're going to open our attributes panel, which is up here under window and then attributes. And then now we're gonna make sure that we have the star selected. We're gonna click on this little box with a little dot that says show center. And then it shows the center of the star. We can move attributes a little bit to the corner because we don't need it right now. Now we're gonna hold down our option button and drag a star to each corner of the square we made. So hold down option and then hold down on the star and then just drag it to the corner and make sure that the middle of the star is on the corners of the square. And there we go. And now we're going to, so we have a stroke on the square right now, and we don't really want that, so we're going to make sure we have our selection tool selected, and we click once on the square. We're going to take away the fill. We also need to make sure that the square is in the back of all the stars. So we can go to object and have the square selected, arrange, and bring to center the back. Now we're going to pull this whole square and all these 5 stars into our swatches panel. So we select all of them and then just click and drag into our swatches panel. Now we can select them all again and then move them out of the way. Because we're done with them, we have them in our swatches panel. We're going to create a rectangle. Just click on the rectangle tool, click once and drag to a big rectangle. And now we're going to fill it. Make sure that we are not on stroke, we're on fill. Going to fill it with our pattern we just made. And there we go. So this pattern is a little more fun rather than the first one we made. The first one is still a pattern, but this is more like, it's more interactive and the stars goes from all different sides. And then that's it for this lesson.